What's up, Make Pop Music? It's Austin here from Make Pop Music and Austin Hall Audio and Visual, and we are back with another video. And as you can probably tell by my attire, we will be doing how to make a modern Christmas song. You guys have requested it, so we figured we would deliver. If you missed it, I did release a Christmas song a couple weeks ago, and ever since I did, we've been getting some requests to do a project breakdown. So today, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go ahead and hop into Cubase and look at everything that I added in this project, why I added it, what tools I used, why I did things versus not doing things. And by the end of the video, you should have a better idea of some things you should add or maybe stray away from to give you a Christmas song, but with that modern pop sound. But before we hop in the DAW, I do have a couple very, very special announcements and a giveaway announcement. So if anybody's been on our YouTube page or our Instagram, we've been teasing, but we are releasing 3 new products this coming Monday. So our Black Friday sales will start Monday, and the 3 new products will be launching at the sale price. And we've got one pack called Spectrum. That's going to be a serum preset pack. It'll have 150 serum presets. We've got a pack called Dark Pop Volume 2. It's basically drum samples that are going to be a follow-up to our best-selling and highest rated pack Dark Pop. So there's a ton of really, really good stuff in there. And then we've also got Melodic, which is going to be our brand new MIDI progression pack. We've got over 200 MIDI progressions done by industry professionals. We reached out to a couple people and had them contribute. So we'll be following up with more information. I don't want this whole video to go on a tangent about that, but all of that stuff will be coming out Monday, November 23rd, and our Black Friday sale will be launching. So definitely stay tuned for that because it's going to be a really, really good time. We haven't released anything in a while, and we've kind of been saving it all to give to you guys at the sale price. So we're super, super excited. With that said, we will be doing a giveaway for our Ultimate Bundle, and that basically includes everything that we've ever done. So courses, samples, presets. It'll be a value of over $800 once we add these new packs. All you have to do is go to the link in the description, put in your information, and then Monday we'll pick a winner on our Instagram, and we'll send you the Ultimate Bundle with all of the new products included. So if you want to do that and you want a chance to win all of our stuff, head to that giveaway and sign up. But without further ado, let's actually hop into the DAW and look at this Christmas track. So now that we're actually in the DAW, let's go ahead and take a look at the first thing that I wanted to do. So my initial idea for the song kind of started with that whole doo-wop section that you hear pretty much first in the song, and really it just kind of came to me when I was in the shower one day. It was like August, so it was definitely not Christmas season, but I've just always loved Christmas music, and I got this little melody stuck in my head and I was like, that definitely sounds like a Christmas song. So this is what kind of resulted, and you can see right here that we have a ton of different layers, and then we've also got a couple virtual layers. We'll go through layer by layer and kind of look at that, and then we'll take a look at the end project. So all of these are just me tracking this over and over again. So it's a 4-part section, and there are 4 takes of each, so 16 vocals total. So we did that, and then we also went ahead and layered this up right here with a couple different Omnisphere patches. So we have this Jag Stacks patch right here, and then we have another kind of jazzy vocal right here. And these to me added just a little bit of extra thickness and consistency. Then I just sent those to a bus where we processed it with all of this kind of stuff, just to give us a little bit of space. Just EQ, reverb, and some multi-band compression to kind of really tighten everything up. And then I printed that all down to one file just to save some CPU and make sure that we weren't going to clutter up our session. So at the end, we got something like this. And this is the first thing that we started with for the entire song. So essentially 16 vocals plus a couple different virtual instruments. Then I just thought to add a fireplace in, since I knew that this was probably going to be an intro. So I just added that in there for some warmth. So once we had those doo-wops in there, I knew that I needed to put a bass line to it. So that's where we pulled in this upright bass over here. And this is actually from Halion Sonic. It's just their acoustic bass VX. Really nothing crazy, but I just wanted to follow what the lead melody was doing. And I wanted to give us some extra rhythm, so I pulled in that like really jazzy, swingy, kind of syncopated. And as you can see, this is a really, really simple chord progression. It's basically just a major scale just going right down. And it was already starting to feel like a Christmas song at that point because we had 2 things that I had heard in a ton of Christmas music. So the next thing I wanted to do was go ahead and add in some snaps. So we added these 2 guys right here. And it's two different snaps panned completely left and right. So we have the first snap right here, this kind of classic snap. Then we have this perfect snap over here. And they just have a little bit of EQ, and then this one has some reverb to kind of put it in the same space. And both of those create a nice wide snap that really kind of feels cohesive. So now we've got those with that upright bass, and then with those little doo-wop-y vocals. So I knew that we had enough to actually get the song going, so now it was time for me to start building out what would be the verse. So I knew that I was going to want to add some sleigh bells, and I kind of just printed those and did a little run up right here with them. What's a Christmas song without sleigh bells, right? So I put some sleigh bells in there from the Hollywood Orchestral Percussion Pack from East West, and those to me sounded really, really good, but I wanted kind of this natural riser, so I just printed those out and then did a little bit of an EQ automation right here. And now I feel like I've definitely got enough for a verse. The next thing I did was just kind of layered that upright bass with a little bit of a harder bass, just to give us some extra attack, because I knew once the arrangement filled out it was going to be hard to hear. So we added this. Just a little bit of stock EQ. This EQ right here is actually not really doing anything. It's just a clean gain boost. So that was really just to add in some top end transient, because that layered over that original upright bass just sounds a little bit nicer and thicker. Next, I knew it was time for me to add some guitars, so I pulled out a Fender Strat and just went DI right into my interface, and then that gave me this. So we'll hear those in solo now. And this is double track. I tracked once for the left side, once for the right side. And that's just processed with a really, really simple guitar rig. So we've just got some compression here, and then a nice kind of tweed style amp, a little bit of reverb and delay, and then I just process that with a little bit of EQ outside of it, just to kind of boost the top end and control the low mids. I just needed a little bit more pluck, and that kind of gave it to me. And then I just popped on some repeater with a nice 16th note. Then when you layer up both sides, it creates this nice kind of thick, wide sound. And I mean, that really is the basis for the entire song. Once we had that, we really just needed to start adding in some beds behind it to really make sure everything fit okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the things that we did for that. So we started layering up some keys right here, and we have a Wurlitzer left and a Wurlitzer right. That are just doing the extended chords of the chord progression that we already had. And I went ahead and just bounced those down, but I will go ahead and show you guys what instruments we were using, because we will get questions about that. So we were using the Whirly V2 from Arturia for both of these. And what I like to do a lot of the time is use kind of a little bit different version of sound, so then we can pan them. So we have the 50-50 Wurlitzer right here, and that's panned 100% left. And then we have a totally different but similar J-Lush right here that's panned all the way to the right. And that's just going to give us this nice wide kind of stereo sound, where if you were to only use one up the middle and then do something like Haas, it might give you this weird kind of chorusy, phasey sound. But using two of a similar thing and then spreading them out manually just kind of gives you that nice natural width. We also added in some extra glockenspiel, so this is just a nice little Christmas touch. So we just used the Glock preset from the Symphonic Orchestra Pack from East West. Any of the kind of orchestral strings, horns, anything like that will probably be East West in this video. And then we also have this cool little una corda. This is actually from Native Instruments. And then I just kind of went in and tweaked some of these settings to give me this nice kind of like cottony, felty sound, but it still had some nice attack, and it still had that nice little like bell resonance. So that gave me this really cool sound that when I paired it over the Wurlitzer and the guitar and everything like that, it sounded really, really nice. So it's got a lead melody following the guitar, and then the chords on the left hand are just following the keys that already existed. The next key sound I wanted to add was when the verse came in, we actually had those sleigh bells come in, so I knew that I was going to need something a little bit thicker, and we pulled in this Rhodes right here. And this kind of sound is just going to come from the Arturia Stage 73V. It's just a smooth jazz setting, and then I tweak the amp just a little bit, and then that gives us this really nice kind of classic right down the middle. So now we've got a pretty solid musical bell. I just needed these little church bells that I found in East West. Just to give me a little bit of an extra hit, because you're going to want some natural rises and hits, but it's not one of those packs that you can go in and pull the super dramatic kind of EDM style riser. So using stuff like the bells and stuff like these, you know, reverse sleigh bells and stuff like that kind of gives you this nice organic push and pull. And then other than that, we went ahead and layered up some extra guitar over here in the second area of the verse, just to kind of give us a little bit of extra sustain. And that just gives us that like really like 1950s kind of crooner vibe. I really, really like that guitar going on top of that. And then with everything, that is pretty much the entire verse right here. So all of this together. So I knew that the verse and the chorus were going to be a super simple progression, so I wanted to break away from that for at least a second and do something different for the pre-chorus, and so that's what I did. I just changed up the chords and then added this extra sustained electric bass, and then took out that like really kind of plucky, melodic and groovy upright bass, and that's just going to give us something a little bit more sustained to kind of let the energy change just for a second. So doing something like that really kind of lets the listener know that they are in a different section of the song, and then we'll also go ahead and pull in some of the kind of natural rises and hits and stuff like that that we have. So we pulled in this extra little chime hit. Again, just a nice little natural kind of rise and hit. And then that's pretty much it for the pre-chorus, so we basically just swapped up the chord progression but kept the actual arrangement of sounds pretty similar. So we still have the Wurlitzer, we still have the Rhodes, the glockenspiel has died down a little bit, we still have that plucky guitar, we still have guitar chords, but now we have this kind of long electric bass right here. Alright, so the bass I used in this song was from Native Instruments. It's the Scarby Rickenbacker bass, and I actually just used the DI neck setting. I didn't want anything too crazy happening, and then I just processed it with some EQ and some compression and a little bit of max bass, and that basically gave me this really nice kind of standard but thick bass sound. And that was plenty. That's the same bass that we're actually going to pull over into the chorus right now. All right, now that we've pretty much talked about the verse and the pre-chorus, let's go ahead and talk about the chorus. And the first main thing that we need to look at is going to be that we really have all of these extra drums coming in. And so we pulled in a kick, a snare, some cymbals, and some toms because I really wanted that kind of nice organic feel. And these are all printed, but we'll go ahead and show you what all we used for those. So this kick right here that you're hearing was from the Abbey Road 60s drummer. We just used the jazz setting and then just printed that out and did a little bit of processing with some EQ, some envelope shaping, and then a little bit of extra reverb. So without anything, just really wanted to tighten up those mids, and then I knew that we were going to need some extra punch, so I just went ahead and layered in a nice little kind of standard sine wave kick. And it sounds a little funny, but in the mix, it just kind of gels really, really nicely, and it really makes that bass pop out. And then we also have this snare over here. And that is also from the Abbey Road 60s drummer, also from the jazz setting. And then we just printed that out and did a bunch of processing on that. So this snare by itself sounds like this. Pretty thin and papery, so we went ahead and added some Camel Crusher to really fatten that up. Then we went ahead and added some Pro Q to really dip into those high mids and add some low boost. Then we went ahead and just added a little bit of extra reverb to kind of put this in the exact space that we wanted. Tighten that up with a little bit more EQ to kind of brighten this up and kind of fill out those lower mids. Then we just have an envelope shaper right here adding a little bit of attack. And then we just have one last EQ to kind of broad strokes, just to make sure it wasn't getting lost in the mix. So we kind of sculpted, and then added back some of the things that we may have overcompensated for. And that really gave me a nice snare that I was pretty happy with. Next, we have some toms, and the toms are also going to be from the Abbey Road 60s drummer. And those really didn't need much, they just needed some EQ, so we just took out a little bit of highs and a little bit of mids to kind of tighten these up, because they were a little boomy and a little kind of shrill. And that gave us enough, and then we just have some cymbals, also from the Abbey Road 60s drummer. So I wanted to use those vintage style drums and then process them a lot more modern. That way we kind of got the original sound. However, it still kind of fit in with a more modern arrangement and a more modern playlist. So with everything together, we have these for the drums. Then we add the snap and the sleigh bells, and then I also started adding in some extra snaps. So we have this Mac snap and this lazy snap that happen every other one, and then it just sounds like this. And then once I added those in the chorus, I kind of liked the variation, so I went back and threw those in the verse. So total for drums, we have something that sounds like this, and then we've got some extra orchestral hits and some cymbal swells. So this guitar is the exact same thing from the verse. The bass is now on that kind of Rickenbacker bass, and the pattern has changed up a little bit, so it's a lot more sustained. Then we have the same kind of musical bed with the Wurlitzers and the Rhodes, the Glockenspiel, the Una Corda, and the church bells. The church bells happen a lot more frequently, and so does the Glockenspiel now. So now that we have the basic kind of arrangement coming over from the verse, let's talk about one thing that we did go ahead and add in this pre-chorus and this chorus to kind of thicken this up that's not actually in the verse, and that's this piano right here. And this piano that we're using is from NI. It's just the Grandeur, printed with some extra stuff on it, so some EQ. I just needed some more high end to really kind of make that pop through the mix. It actually sounded gorgeous without it, but it just wasn't really pulling its weight in the mix, so just added that onto there. So the first horn we pulled in was this French horn right here. This is just a 6 FH Portato from Hollywood Brass. So pretty simple, there's really nothing crazy happening, we're just following the melody that already existed. And then we have these trombones right here. So now we're starting to introduce some extra counter rhythm, and those are also going to come from East West. That is the 4TB Q Legato from Hollywood Orchestra. So we've got that layered up with these French horns. And then for the real sauce, we pull in these two trumpets. So the first trumpet that we're gonna have over here is going to be from East West. Then we pull in the second trumpet, which is from Contact, so it's their brass ensemble. And then for the post-chorus, we just wanted to pull in one more trumpet and one more horn to really make sure that we were going to get kind of this big instrumental moment. And then all of that together is going to give us that really Christmassy orchestral sound. And that's pretty much it. We just pulled that upright bass from the verse, and then I filtered out some of the low end. Just to give us a little bit of that movement back, but I didn't want any of that low end to kind of clutter up what we had going with the electric bass. And that is pretty much the arrangement for the entire song. There are a couple last minute things that we'll go ahead and go over before we get to the vocals. We do have these extra claps that I wanted to go ahead and add in the second verse. And these are actually just recorded in my room. I just recorded myself clapping a bunch, layered them over, and then printed it. So we have those, and then those kind of continue through the second chorus and the third chorus. And then we have this over here. And then I did the same thing there with the vocals that I did with the doo-wops, just recorded them a ton, processed them as one bus, and then printed them. So we'll get to that more when we get to the vocals. And then the last thing that I did was I knew I wanted a key change, so what I basically did was transpose everything up 2 semitones, and then we have it going from this. So everything just got transposed up 2 semitones before I printed it all, and then there was one thing that I needed to add to make sure that that was going to go a little bit more smooth, and I added these extra little staccato runs. So I added this guy right here, and that kind of transitions us from one key to the next, and that's just these little staccato strings that are in east-west. We have the kind of really, really staccato strings going into these more kind of played out legato. And that is the entire instrumental production. It's pretty simple. There's just a few things happening. We've got the guitars, we've got the horns, we've got the pianos, and then it's all just about layering sound so everything feels modern and current, but still kind of has that homage to the traditional sound. So let's go ahead and pull in vocals, and then that will do it. All right, so now that we've talked about the instrumental, let's go ahead and talk about the vocals. I'm not gonna go over how I wrote it line by line, but we will kind of talk about the goal for this. So when I was sitting down to actually write the lyrics, I wanted something that felt personal but still accessible and relatable for others. I wanted something that felt romantic but not overly kind of corny and kitschy, and I wanted something that definitely lended itself to the circumstances of this year without it seeming like it was like pandering or way too on the nose. So I kind of arrived at the whole like, let's stay in this Christmas, let's, you know, just celebrate it with just me and you, but I wanted something that was going to extend past this year because there will be a Christmas next year and the next year, and hopefully those will not also be quarantined. So I wanted something that felt current but wasn't going to immediately expire itself. And then that's just kind of how I wrote all the lyrics. So now we'll just actually go into how I processed it and how I arranged all these vocals. So you just have this one main vocal through the verses.
Let's take a drive, look around at all of the lights, snow is dancing down.
And we just have some EQ, de-essing, nothing crazy. All of these are doing some pretty light and minimal stuff, and then we're just sending that to a reverb and delay. Same vocal chain as always, so we're not going to spend a ton of time breaking that down. And then I just went ahead and added these kind of manual delay throws, so.
Look around at all of the lights, snow is dancing down.
And that's just with the vocal chain, and then I just added repeater in, so it's 1/4 stereo on the tape delay vintage, and then added a little bit of extra reverb after that to kind of sync those in. And then we pulled in a wet vocal kind of underlay right here, and that's actually just that vocal duplicated but with a reverb on 100% wet, so we have this in the pre-chorus.
Just to feel that Christmas.
And I just wanted it to kind of open up and get a little bit more ethereal and spacey, so we go from something like this.
All the roads are covered with snow, and every store and restaurant is closed. Oh, oh. And I've been waiting since last year, just to feel that Christmas cheer. I'll pull you in closer.
So that is literally all the vocals for the verses. It's literally just that one lead vocal, those delay throws on the end of phrases, and then that wet coming in on the pre-chorus. And then on the second verse, the wet actually comes in through the entire verse because there's a little bit more happening. But in this chorus, this is really where we start stacking it up. So we have the main vocal in the center, and then tracked again for the left side, tracked again for the right side. So we've got this.
Let's stay in and start a fire. Pour some whiskey in the cider and see where it goes.
Then we've got these harmonies right here.
Let's stay in and start a fire. Pour some whiskey in the cider and see where.
And I just kind of filtered those out to get them out of the way. I really just wanted them for texture.
Let's stay in and start a fire. Pour some whiskey in the cider and see where.
Then I have these low harmonies right here.
Let's stay in and start a fire. Pour some whiskey in the cider and see where it goes.
And then we just have some delay throws right here, so we have a really, really fast one.
Let's stay in and start a fire. Pour some whiskey.
That one is just a quarter delay on the tape vintage, and we do have it spread, but it's not ping pong. So it has some stereo width, but it's not going back and forth ear to ear, which is just kind of a nice feature to have. That way you don't always have to have, sometimes it gets a little disorienting if everything is happening like that. And then we have one over here that will happen in a second that is a half delay. So same parameters, just half instead of a quarter.
Let's stay in and start a fire. Pour some whiskey in the cider and see where it goes. Kiss me under the mistletoe.
And that's pretty much it. So we just mix that with these little doo-wop-y vocals.
Let's stay in and start a fire. Pour some whiskey in the cider. See where it goes. Kiss me under the mistletoe.
And that is all for the verses and the chorus. And the bridge right here, we dropped down to one vocal just for some intimacy.
It's you and me this Christmas, and we don't need anybody else. Just you and me this Christmas, 'cause baby I just really want you all to myself. It's you and me.
Then this is where we pull in those extra tracks. So I just yelled this a bunch in my room, comped them down to one vocal.
It's you and me this Christmas, and we don't need anybody else. Just you and me this Christmas.
So we actually kept the vocal arrangement the exact same when the key change came in. We just took it all up 2 semitones, and I retracked all of the main kind of leads and harmonies and everything like that, so it didn't sound super artificial.
Let's stay in and start a fire. Pour some whiskey in the cider and see where it goes. Kiss me under the mistletoe. Let's stay in and play.
So we have all of that, and then for that instrumental post-chorus, we decided to pull in what we did for the bridge. And I just layered up a main vocal over those kind of extra ones to kind of give me a little bit of room to do some runs and stuff on top.
It's you and me this Christmas, and we don't need anybody else. Just you and me this Christmas.
Then we just have the classic fade out, and that is it for the entire song. And that's gonna do it. There is a ton of stuff that you can do with a Christmas song. I chose to keep the arrangement pretty simple and pretty organic, so this was definitely kind of an homage to more traditional kind of Bing Crosby, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin kind of Christmas music, but I still wanted that modern flair, so we did a lot of processing with the drums. We did a lot of kind of layering with extra guitars and extra vocal effects. So definitely mixing that old and new gives you a really, really cool style, and it feels nostalgic for Christmas. However, it doesn't feel overly corny and overly done. So if you've released a Christmas song, let us know in the comments below. I would love to check it out. I love Christmas music. If you have any questions about the project, let us know and we can answer those in the comments. And again, stay tuned for the 3 new products and the Black Friday sales that are coming on Monday. Go ahead and enter that giveaway in the description below, and we will be back next week with more product announcements, and we'll be back next week with another tutorial. That's going to be it for now. Have a good weekend and stay safe. Much love, everybody. Peace out.